I think comic books they always in stuck in act two, right? They never get to the finale, so it's kind of like, yeah, somebody can die and then come back.
He's an American trying to be second place. I know exactly what he'd like.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host, Theo. And on the line, I have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Benja. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? Hey, you got a little more energy than you usually start out with. I don't know if you noticed that, but you usually start off with kind of a moderate energy and the build up to it pops off later. But where's all this energy coming from?
Oh man, because I didn't travel this week, so I've been at the house, man. I had nothing to do, so I'm ready to go, man. So real quick, today we'll talk about some of the news that went out, and we'll talk a little bit about that from the weekly news. I think a big story idea. We'll talk a little bit about the streaming wars, give you an update on who has the best IP and where it's all going, and then we'll probably complete everything today with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the final episode, right? Black Falcon no more. So we'll get into that. Before we get into that, Ben, how was your week?
Week was good, man. It's I'm trying to still keep everything at like a 7 and have no big ups or downs. Just kind of maintain where I'm happy and chill. So week was good. Nothing exciting.
Yeah, yeah, same here, man. I mean, you know, dealing with two kids, it's always a challenge and interesting times. So spending time with them and watching the last episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They love that part. And so we actually went back and watched the first episode again and then started watching Civil War. So they kind of like that aspect because now they understand these characters. And so, we watched WandaVision, we watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. Now going back and watching these over again, you're like, oh yeah, they're like, oh yeah, I know who that is now. What's that
Yeah.
about? And so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinions on Falcon and Winter Soldier later on in the show, but it was a good week for watching. Yeah, actually, you know what?
Definitely.
There was a good week of just watching stuff. So I will say I did that this week. I watched some shit.
Same here, man. Same here. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it, man. So real quick, latest news that went out this week. So speaking of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, big news was that there is a Captain America 4 that's being written as we speak by the showrunner, Malcolm Spillman. Be curious, any thoughts on that? What does that mean for Captain? Well, I guess we have to kind of do a little spoiler alert, So there's a new Captain America for those that don't know, and looks like it's going to be about him. So any thoughts on that briefly?
Um, it's a I wasn't expecting it actually. So the fact that they're bringing this to light, it actually got me thinking about their slate for this phase. Because you've got Black Widow, Blade, um, Shang Chi. You've got who am I missing? Doctor Strange. You got these major players for the new season, new phase. It's just looking a lot more diverse and interesting than I would have expected had you asked me, a couple years ago. Oh, and Thor's coming back too, of course.
hmm hmm Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, we'll probably talk about a little bit, but this next phase of Marvel movies, where they're trying to change these characters, because I'm hearing, that Lady Thor is gonna be introduced
Hmm.
in the new Thor movie. So, and we know about the new Iron Man, Ironheart, that potentially could be announced during the Armor Wars. From the TV show, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can replace these legacy characters with new characters that carry on the name, right, of these mainstream Avenger characters. The comic book, characters have never really done it that well. I don't think. I mean, because I think comic books, they always in stuck in act 2, right? They never get to the finale, so it's kinda like, yeah, somebody can die and then come back or, be replaced or have a missing arm, then grow it back or be a clone. But, they've tried it a couple of times, but it's just really hard in comic books. But I wonder if movie audiences, I mean, man, we're going down a little rat hole here, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's sad to say, but Black Panther is going to have to be replaced eventually, right? And so by maybe a legacy character or something, or a new character. I'm just curious. Do you think movie audiences will accept new type of characters in these iconic roles, or do they just need to replace the actor, right, and keep the same character, if that makes sense?
Um, it's a good question whether they'll fully embrace and accept it. Um, in movies, it has that really worked out? I don't know. We've never seen it on this scale, but at least in the comic world, paper comics that you actually go into the store to buy, those have kind of wreaked havoc on sales. It's like you see sales spiking over here and plummeting in the major titles like Thor and Iron Man, as you were saying. But as I said, you've also seen spikes in like some of the Black Panther stuff and the old Black Captain America comics spiking. So it's a kind of a crapshoot because no one's really ever done it like this in the theaters. So we'll see what it does. As I said in other places, I'm personally not a fan of the replacement strategy. I'd rather, come with my own character and do it my own way. But this is something obviously they're going for, and a lot of people really want and expect. So we'll see.
I agree, definitely. More to come. Other news, Sony and Netflix deal. Basically, Sony Pictures enters a streaming deal with Netflix. So the deal, which begins with the studio's 2022 releases, builds on Netflix's existing partnership with Sony Pictures Animation and replaces the agreement Sony had with Stars Entertainment since 2005. So that's
Stars.
probably why we saw a lot. Yeah, I know. That's why we saw a lot of those Spider-Man Homecoming went to Stars. I don't know if you saw that a couple times. It went there first before it went to Netflix. So kind of interesting. So I guess Netflix will be able to get access to the I guess the next what's this 2022 releases. I don't know if the existing Spider-Man. No, I think it is. I can't tell. I gotta look through the article here, but definitely the Morbius with Jared Leto playing the Marvel vampire and Uncharted, Tom Holland's adaptation of the PlayStation game are all going, to Netflix after their movie releases. So that means they're going there first instead of going straight to the cable movie, theaters or cable, carriers like HBO or Stars or something like that. So kind of interesting. So I mean, obviously the big thing is Spider-Man will be on Netflix. I mean, any thoughts on that? I know you pinged me, earlier in the week about my thoughts on that. So I'd love to get your thoughts first and then
Well,
see what you.
before we get into that, how does that jive with the other Disney deal, where Disney and Sony are getting the Spider-Man films, at least the ones that are adjacent with Tom Holland, into Disney Plus?
Yeah, from my understanding, I read this. There's this newsletter goes around called the Ankler that talks deep dive into like the Hollywood inside, and so it looks like this is like a first run opportunity. It's like a window. It's like so they're kind of looks like they're trying to create windows even for streaming services. So it looks like Netflix will get this access to this first run of these Spider-Man movies,
Hmm.
but then after a certain while they'll go away and then they'll go straight to Disney Plus.
Mm,
So it's kinda
I
like
see. I see.
Netflix is getting a bump, right, from these, Spider-Man movies, but then, they're straight going back to the mothership, from a character standpoint, Spider-Man is. And so that is kinda interesting. So Sony basically double dipped, man. They got, like, two girls, for lack of a better term, man. One girl's, checking it out first, and they're like, "Hey, okay." Then they switch to the next girl after a couple of weeks. So that's my understanding of how they're going to play this. But you know, Sony's getting paid right off this licensing
Yeah.
deal, both times, twice.
Okay.
That's basically the insight I've gotten from this.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm sure we might touch on that again in our uh, bigger discussion about the streaming wars a little later. All right. But what do I think of it? Hey, man, as a consumer, I just want to, if I'm going to a service for all the Marvel stuff, I kind of expect all the Marvel stuff to be there. So
Mhm.
that's my feeling. I'm like, in fact, if stuff shows up on Netflix, I might not even watch it until it hits Disney Plus. I'll just be like, whatever, I'll get to it later.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, we need to discuss this more because I'm trying to look at my viewing habits. Am I going to Netflix now as much as I did in the past? I don't know, man. It's kind of interesting. But you're right. You go Disney Plus. I want to see Marvel. I go Disney Plus, right? I don't want to have to go look for it, like because one time it was on Netflix. It was on all these other, some streaming services that show up on TNT
Yeah,
on a late afternoon on a Saturday. So you're just like, dude, I just want to watch my Star Wars or my Marvel.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
just want to know where it is and see it. So yeah, I agree. It being in one place would be really important. Speaking of which, Mortal Kombat got released this past weekend on HBO Max and the movie theaters. Reviews are mixed. I'll be honest with you, I fell asleep on it again, just like King Kong and Godzilla versus King Kong. So I need to finish watching it. I think I got to the part where I think Scorpion was fighting Sub Zero, and I was like, "Oh man, this is slow."
Wait,
I want to see some fights,
that
man.
might have that means you fell asleep in like the first 5 minutes or the last 15 minutes.
So that I mean, spoiler, high level spoiler. We're not gonna really talk too much in Mortal
There's
Kombat,
nothing to
but
spoil in Mortal Kombat.
okay, there's nothing. So, but it's basically about them too, right? Is that what the premise is, though? The two ninjas, for lack of a better term, Sub Zero and Scorpion. Is it their internal battle? Is that what it is?
You're trying to apply some actual storytelling to this, and it's just like, hey, let's get some characters and see whose ass is going to get whipped. That's all this is about to me. So internal struggle, maybe, I guess so. Yeah, I'm struggling because it's not even about that kind of storytelling. Here
Oh,
we go into the evolution of storytelling again. I'm sorry, uh, but you've got this new character. What do they call him, John Cole or something like that. Um, that's inherited the Scorpion clan or whatever's bloodline. So he's not Scorpion, but he kind of is Scorpion in the Scorpion family. So he wears yellow and black and all that, right? Um,
wait, hold on, man. You just lost me right there. We just said there's a Scorpion legacy, huh? I mean, they really try to go deep on this, huh?
but it's not deep like story. It's just deep in terms of how can we set up the next line of characters for the video game? How can we, uh, make this character relevant? Like, like one ninja isn't relevant, so they create another ninja and they connect him to the past ninja clan, and all of a sudden you have more ninjas coming from more clans. They're trying to make this. Okay, and here's the news that's actually coming out of this, since we're in the news segment. Um, if Mortal Kombat was a success, which it is, I think they brought in 23 million. They said. Uh, you have to quote me on that number, Theo. Um, it brought in 20 something million this weekend. If it was a success, and it is, then they're going to make four more. And the whole plan was just to keep on making these movies that basically ride off of the excitement from the video games, the Easter eggs, the oh, did you see this, et cetera, et cetera. There's no talk of a story going on here. There's no big story arc going on. It's just stuff happening and asses getting whipped. You know, I don't know what to tell you.
Nah, man. Dude, you're not lying, man. Mortal Kombat, yeah, it took in 22.5 million, which is pretty good. That's on par with the 31 million in the weekend that Godzilla versus Kong made. So that's in the movie theaters. So yeah, I mean, that's in these COVID times, that's a success. That's crazy, dude. I mean, over Mortal Kombat, and I heard it was even that good. I mean, and people can watch it, technically for free, right? You
Yeah.
pay for the service. So, but okay, so so on my side, the business side makes perfect sense. You're trying to take these characters and try to evolve the IP and try to develop more storytelling, and then like you said, that feeds into the video games and the merch and all this stuff. But you're more like the storytelling. You talk about the evolution of storytelling. Is it really evolution of storytelling, or is it like storytelling by committee by business model? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's definitely got a serious pat on the back and go forth, young man, from the business side of things. But when I mean the evolution of storytelling, your story isn't just blocked off in terms of your 90-minute setup, your beginning, your opening shot, your midpoint, act one, two, three, all that jazz. You're not constrained to that anymore, and you can verify that just by going on the internet. People will start talking about less about what happened in the actual movie and what these things meant. Like, hey, this character showed up. Oh, do you know that character's connected to blah blah blah? Where's that character from? I didn't see him in the video game. Oh, they showed up in the animated movie. And there's this whole discussion about the happenings of these characters that has nothing to do with the hour and a half, 2 hour movie that you're watching, which is phenomenal to me. So I think I say that's the evolution of storytelling. Um, is that good? Not in this case, to me, because I think the story is just whack in this case. Um, but does it need to be good? I don't know. I see Jax with big muscle arms, and there's the Jax dance challenge and everything on TikTok. You know, yeah, look that up, but not right now.
Man, I'm just over here making faces, man. Just like this is crazy. There's a Jack's TikTok challenge. I mean, just IP on top of IP on top of promotion on top of marketing. It's just like, dude, this is crazy. But I think this is something we may want to unpack more, man. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head on could be one of our major themes as we talk about this stuff, this evolution of storytelling. Because you're right, before the way we grew up, right? You watch a concrete form of entertainment on TV or movie, and that was it, right? And maybe every now and then it would go to a comic book or or some kind of animated show or something like that with the same characters. But now that's like the driving force of all this. It's kind of like, yes, you're making this story, but it's got about five different pathways you can go down the path of, to your point. And then, everybody's already thinking about they're watching the movie, but while they're watching it, oh yeah, like we just talked about it last couple podcasts ago, right? About Madripoor, right? With Captain Falcon and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we talked about, oh yeah, the X-Men, right? And we're not even watching the show. We're just like thinking about the possibilities of what Madripoor
Yeah,
means, right? And it's like one little scene, and it's like has nothing to do with the current story. So I love, yeah, we should probably dive deeper into this whole the evolution of storytelling, right? And you know what? Just real quick, one thing I always thought about was that Grant Morrison, right, great comic book writer, he kind of does that in his comic book writing. He'll put some esoteric stuff in his comic books,
hmm
and his mind was always like, well, you have the internet now, so if you really want to know what I'm talking about, go look it up.
yeah,
And so he purposely put that, so you it's very dense, and he'll some obscure reference from like a 1970s comic book of Superman that he put into this current one. And so now, and to your point, that's how all the movies are, how all the TV shows are now. Just go to the internet, you'll find it.
yeah, exactly. So, is it good for storytelling? It can be. In Mortal Kombat's case, ain't nothing gonna help that story, man. Um, I still rock with the OG Mortal Kombat, and that first one I thought was well put together as a story.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody denies that, but the thing that people like about it is all the Easter eggs, the violence, the head smashing and stuff like that. This one's clearly not a PG-13 movie like some of the others, so they finally let go of that. I mean, just all out. But we'll we'll see. We're obviously going to get another Mortal Kombat, so we shouldn't have to wait too long.
Well, also, oh, we talked about this in other conversation, one of our podcasts, Tekken. Tekken was the other big fighting game, around
Oh,
the
okay,
time
okay.
we were, yeah, we couldn't think of the other one. We thought about Killer Instinct, Street Fighter, but not Tekken. But yeah, Mortal Kombat came out in '95, right? So that was, our college years. And yes, that's very fond memories too. We remember that. 'Cause we used to play the hell out of that game in college. And then I always remember Johnny Cage. That, he was as cocky as he was in the in, in the uh in the video game. So that movie does have a special place in our hearts, when it came out. And it made 122 million when it came out back in 95. So yeah, it was a success. So, now it's coming out, some 25 something years later, and now they're like, hey, now we can have some more deeper stories, let me ask you a question. Johnny Cage was in this last one, right?
The one that just came out?
It just came out. Yeah.
No,
Well, that's the
no,
problem.
he was referenced. That's the whole thing. They said, hey, stick around next week and next month or whatever, when next year. I don't know when the next Mortal Kombat's coming, and we'll have Johnny Cage for you. They sprinkled all kinds of little nonsense in there, like yeah. But yeah, okay,
Interesting.
storytelling. Here's, even if you're only telling a story with characters, like basing it on character development, somebody in the movie did a nut punch. Why would you have somebody do a nut punch if it's not Johnny Cage? I was
True.
kind of mad at that. I was like, why would you do that? Just just leave now.
Just referencing, hey, this is a cool move. We're gonna take it from another character, but everyone knows if you know Mortal Kombat, that's what Johnny Cage does, and so it's like, oh, now this is bad. Substituting, like you mentioned, short story, doing a storytelling technique that's really should be based in a character, right?
Hmm.
And then just fast forwarding to your point, referencing it so that you can come back to see the real guy do it, right? And so, yeah,
That's
that's cheap.
that's so weird to me. People are going nuts for it, and but they're not going nuts for it in terms of the story. I will say, hey, it did everything that a lot of the fans wanted to do. So I can't get mad at that. But as far as story goes, nah, son.
Man, this is deep. Yeah, we need to go into these deep dives, man, because people are going nuts for these IP, and we'll talk about this in our big story in a second. But you're right. Is a story any good? That's the challenge. So it's like, yeah, people get excited about the possibilities. So to your point, I mean, if you got infinite number of chances, eventually one of these stories are going to be good. But it doesn't matter because it just it just keep putting shit out because people want to see it, see cool stuff, and eventually one of those stories would be good. Like for instance, we talk about IP, like Spider-Man in the multiverse, right? What was that? The man, I can't remember the Sony one that won the Oscar, right? The anime show movie about the Spider-Man
Into the Spider
and all the
Verse.
different Spider-Man. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. No way that should have worked,
Uh
right?
huh.
But because it's basically just a bunch of hodgepodge IP stuck together, right? To kind of see, how can we introduce Miles Morales and Spider-Man and all these different Spider-Man and get everybody excited about anime movie. And it worked because it was a good story. But did it matter that it worked? It didn't have to, right? It was just like, hey, this is just Spider-Man cartoon. Go check it out. And here's a reference to some esoteric, comic book or character that maybe five people knew about, quite a few people knew about, like you know um like, but at the end of the day it was kind of like it didn't have to be good. It ended up being good, but it was based on a bunch of IP stacked on IP, right? And so it's kind of interesting, this conversation between quality storytelling and the business side of the, well, of the IP, right? That's driving everything. So show versus business, baby, one on one.
All right.
So let's get into it, man. The big story, since we're talking about IP, man, streaming wars, man, they are heating up. It is on fire. So, I think we're gonna probably focus on the core four: Netflix, Prime, Amazon, Disney Plus, and HBO Max. Obviously, there's a ton of other ones that are coming out, and we'll probably cover those at a later time. But the big one, so maybe I'll do this, Ben. I'll just give you a list of the different, numbers, for the four, and then we'll go to each one and go through the IP and just give it a, grade on what we think, how they position in reference to IP. What are your thoughts on that?
That sounds good. So as a primer for this whole discussion here, um, basically, Theo and I were talking, and sorry, I had to pause for a second because I've never actually addressed the audience like that. Theo and I were talking, um, but basically, what's going on is you have these different streaming houses, Netflix, Prime, Disney Plus, and HBO Max, et cetera, et cetera. And what the people are finding is that they really want to have an IP, an intellectual property, a strong brand to carry these streaming services. So in the past, you'd have your different cable networks and each, or your different TV networks, and each of them would have a show or two that you liked. And but it didn't matter as much because you got all of the you got multiple television stations, multiple cable stations all at once. So you didn't have to play that game so much. But now with the streaming service, it's like if I can get a person to buy into my IP, I may have that person as a subscriber for life. And that is billions of dollars for a company if they can get an IP that attaches to people and it keeps them on a given service. So this is basically pushing as far as we see it. Maybe you don't totally see it like this, but um, it's pushing the entire discussion about what gets built, what we're going to see next, um, what gets greenlit, and it's reforming the entire entertainment industry as we speak. And there are a lot of people who are dying along the way, which is why we call it the streaming wars because it's a fight for this new IP asset landscape. So I don't know. Does that give it enough of a kind of overview?
Oh, you perfectly nailed it. I mean, it's about like what's going to keep people to pay for these streaming service, to the day they die, right? So you got to tie them to an emotional content, and who has a stronger positioning, right? And I think that's a powerful story, and that's ultimately who's going to win. I would liken, I think I kind of mentioned it in our chat was during the week that IP is kind of like that heavy artillery, right? You got to have that, right, to kind of win the war
Mhm.
because you got to keep these people engaged and want us to come back to your streaming service because it's too many and eventually people gonna start dropping stuff. I mean, you don't have a lot of discretionary income, right, to kind of keep these services indefinitely, right? And then you saw with the news too that they're looking to get rid of password sharing eventually, right? So because they just don't have enough, there's not enough people, who are going to sign up for these services. So no, you nailed it on the head, man. There's IPs that stickiness to keep people there, and they know and it's the battle. It's the battle for your life.
Yeah. And
So go ahead.
no, I know you've probably, I don't know if you ever asked around, but if you start talking to people and they're just about what they watched or whatever, it will naturally center around what services they have. Like I know a group of people who all have HBO Max, and they're always talking about, "Hey man, did you see Carl versus? Yeah man, da, da, da. Da. Yeah man, did you see the new the Nevers or whatever on the HBO? Yeah man, I saw it." And they're always I didn't realize it, but they were always talking about HBO Max shows. And then I have another group of people. They're always talking about like Bridgerton, Stranger Things. They're always talking about the Netflix shows. And it didn't hit me until like 2 weeks ago. I was like, yo, they're not talking so much about the IP. I mean, they are, but they're talking about these services. And the IP is carrying these services. So it's kind of a weird little wild thing of you know, I go to a service, I click that little icon, Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever, because I like it. That's just fascinating to me. So here we are now in 2021 debating streaming wars.
No, thanks for setting that up, man. I think you nailed it on the head. So let's get into the first one, Netflix, man. They're the granddaddy of them all. They kind of started this thing off. And so obviously they had a big, huge lead. I think they were the only one out there for like, 5, 6 years, right? Before everyone started, take notice that, hey, man, we need to have our own. Matter of fact, Netflix, remember, Netflix would just buy licensed content from everyone else. And that's how they got a lot of Disney stuff. They got a lot of no, they never had Star Wars stuff, I don't think, but they had a lot of IP on their site. It's rented, right? Because it's licensed.
Hmm.
But that's how they grew, right? Initially. And they currently have about 208 million global subscribers. In Q1, they added 4 million subscribers. But the big news story of this week was that they released their numbers, and they're saying they're having slower growth. Obviously, last year this time, right, the height of pandemic, they were growing through the roof, right? They were saying, "Hey, we had the biggest number of people added, because of the pandemic," and now they're blaming it on, production delays and just, everything, just everything with P&L and just trying to get these services out. But there was a article in a newsletter I read called The Ankler, which is like an insider in Hollywood, and talked about that. Sure, that could be one reason why, but and then they didn't really have a lot of hits in Q1. And I think the big one was Bridgerton and Lupin, right? But they didn't really have like a Stranger Things or anything big or any superhero type stuff. And then to be fair, they have a lot more competition now, right? With Disney and other folks coming in
Hmm.
that people are not watching it as much and they rather go somewhere else. So Netflix, man, granddaddy of them all. Do you want to talk a little bit about their where they stand with their IP here?
So Netflix is in a good position because they may they're pretty much in the position to beat everybody up. Given decent enough IP, I think they'll just push their way through the internet and start knocking heads. It's pretty much a slam dunk. If they can get something like, we're talking about Mortal Kombat. If they can scoop up like some Street Fighter anime, you know, uh, maybe send Crunchyroll a bunch of money so they can start doing dubs of all the Japanese only anime that they do over there. You know, that would be a huge win. So I think Netflix is in a good position to really carry a lot of the new stuff. And yeah, if they come up with a nice IP, they're knocking heads once again. So, but they should they can easily be caught slipping like, well, we don't need any fancy IP. It's like, uh maybe we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I think yeah, so Stranger Things was one of the first ones they had out the gate. So but that's getting a little old in the tooth and the kids are getting older too. So we'll see how that does when it gets released again. I guess in a couple of months or so. But some new hits, Witcher. I think that has some promise. I think the first season, has some problems in my mind, but I think people are excited about it, right? I mean, I'm hearing some excitement about The Witcher, and so
It's a
hopefully the second season will be pretty good.
it's a fun world. The world isn't a bad place to play in with stories and things like that. So you could really build something off Witcher, and of course it has strong video game connections. So a lot of people are kind of automatically there for that. I mean, we're more into stories and everything, but if you're just playing video games and need something to watch on TV, it's like, hey, let me watch The Witcher. Yeah, I got the video game too. I'll play that. So it wraps a lot of that IP and styling together. So yeah, they work for that.
And then another thing, I think they did a big deal with the Millar world, right?
Yep.
And Jupiter's Legacy is coming out. They already have the trailer. I think they have a release date for that. So we'll see, how's that do for their superhero presence, right? When it comes to that. Be honest, with you, I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't know. I didn't really read that comic. I'm very familiar with it, but it seems like a lot of tropes that they're going to cover has been covered elsewhere right now,
Yeah.
like Invincible and other things.
Uh,
So we'll see what they do with Jupiter's Legacy.
real quick on Netflix. I'll make sure I rank these. If you're talking about King of the Hill, I'm going to say that Netflix is currently still just like that King of the Hill company streaming service. If you get a streaming service, you got to go ahead and get Netflix. Um, I'm just saying that they're there, and Yeah, it's like they're on top of the hill, but they can easily fall off. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I want to cover we're two things on Netflix
Okay.
that we don't really cover on this podcast, but I think the reason why they stay on they probably stay on the as the King of the Hill is the Bridgerton kind of universe.
Okay.
And that hits into, like, romance and stuff like that,
Mm,
like, my wife watches a ton of that stuff, and not just Bridgerton, but there's, like, other shows that kinda, romance thrillers, things like that, and so that's Netflix, and then also along that line is some of those, true crime stories that come up on Netflix, documentaries, so Netflix has a real corner on that, and then also globally, they've created a way where they're able to replicate similar storylines in different countries. And one of the series they call Criminal, where they have like the same premise, right? It's interrogation room. The cops and the potential crime person, typical criminal. They go back and forth, but they do it the same premise, same type of everything, but it's in different countries. They have one in UK, one in Spain, one in Netherlands. So it's basically the same kind of concept,
mhm,
the story, but just in a different country, and so they save so much money because they just use the same sets. So they've like I said, those branches that romance stuff, and then that whole global presence, like Lupin, I think was another kind of similar vein
mhm.
around that global presence. So that's why they're going to stay, like you said, King of the
Yeah,
Hill for a while. So
and that's their
we can move on.
and that's their what you call it. That's their innovative, their ingenuity, and that's what gives them a big advantage. So, props to them. All right.
Moving on, Prime, Amazon. So Amazon's interesting. They got 200 million global subscribers, Amazon Prime Video. But the unique thing about Amazon Prime is that you get it for Prime Video. You get it for free when you sign up for Amazon Prime, which is basically a 2-day shipping service from Amazon. So it's kind of like, hey, you want your soap in 2 days? Oh, by the way, you want to watch some Invincible while you with that soap? And so it's kind of dubious in my opinion with the numbers. But because when you got 70 million US households, on Amazon Prime, it's kind of like,
You know what's you
sure.
know what's funny, dog? That discussion actually happened. Was somebody was talking was like, "Hey, did you see?" It wasn't. Oh, it was the boys. Like, "Hey, did you see the boys?" Like, "No, no. Where can I watch that? It's on Amazon." Amazon. And the guy was like, "Ugh," you know. But then he turned his head and was like, "You know what? I have been thinking about free shipping." And I was like, wait a minute, you're not a Prime member, you don't, and you buy stuff online. She's like, yeah, I just buy stuff from whatever store I like. I never thought of buying stuff from Amazon, and everybody was like, what the hell is wrong with you? If you're buying stuff, and I was like, yeah, man, forget the boys. You need to get your shipping in order, and then we'll talk about the boys after that comedy.
So by our conversation, Prime Video is such a loss leader for them. It's kind of like it's just nice to have to kind of keep selling more, keep people on Prime in general. So because they know from their numbers, Amazon does that the more people stay on Prime, then the more likely they're going to order stuff. So to keep people on Prime more, they're trying to add more services to that, right? And I think video is one of them. They're going to add some other. I think didn't they try to play around with some video game stuff for a second? They're trying to create all these different ancillary services to kind of keep people on subscriptions.
Yeah, so they've got Prime Gaming, which is like Twitch is connected into that, where you're basically, you can game, you can order these games through their gaming service. You can stream them through Twitch, and if you don't know about Twitch, that's a whole another discussion in itself. But Twitch is owned by Amazon, and basically you're just streaming these 5-hour blocks of content where you're sitting around scratching your ass while you're playing Pac-Man or um, you know Day of the Dead or whatever video game you're playing. But basically, yeah, the Prime has just got all these things going on, and I don't know what their plan is, except to do everything. So where do they stack up here? Uh, the dangerous guy in the corner. You know?
So you got the king of the hill. This might be the roguish ninja that's
Yeah.
sitting in the back, right,
Off
ready to pounce.
off
But
the dark figure, dark shadowy silhouette with two red eyes in the trees right next to the hill, you know?
yeah, yeah, that's a good analogy for Prime. I love
Well,
it. So their IP here, Invincible, which is the new Robert Kirkman comic book series, or has been a comic book series that's been okay for them. And then the boys, of course, that was another Garth Ennis big story, and that's been a hit for them. I mean, that I think that drives a lot of views, and of course they got Lord of the Rings. So I mean, I heard something they're gonna spend like man hundreds of millions of dollars on this Lord of the Rings reboot. So we'll see what that looks like. But that's the big thing for them. I mean, anything else you see from them from Prime that video that's kind of interesting from IP standpoint?
they're definitely tapping into things that are easily um, merchandisable. To your point before about their whole idea is to get you to buy things. Man, they uh, they had that last year. They had their Comic Con esque kind of thing going on. So anytime you were like searching for Batman or whatever, it's like, hey, it's Comic Con week. Buy these new exclusive San Diego Comic Con Batman, toilet roll holders, or whatever nonsense they were fluffing at the time. But point is, they had a lot of products that they were pushing, and I think they were just really pushing out a lot of product, Amazon exclusives. Next day free shipping. You get this product. If you buy within the next 5 minutes or whatever. They had like little mini websites set up for all this stuff, and it was pretty phenomenal. So that's where I see them going with it. They're definitely, as you said, product first, and then if we have an IP that matches, being able to make merch out of it, like Lord of the Rings. Oh God, merch for days.
Oh man, dude, you know how many nerds want that sword? Want a sword or some staff that Gandalf had. You shall not pass.
Yeah, man, you're gonna see people on Twitch. You're gonna see people on Twitch, saying they just bought something from Amazon. They're gonna have the staff in hand. So, and they're just gonna say, "Hey, we're gonna have a watch party. It's all gonna be wrapped in." And yeah, man,
Mm.
it's crazy stupid the possibilities there.
Definitely, definitely. So moving on, Disney Plus, man, that's like the up and coming prince, man. He's got, he took the sword from Excalibur, man. He's coming for that king, man. So Disney Plus, 100 million global, and the amazing thing about them, they literally just launched like the end of November 2019. So basically, Disney Plus saved Disney when everything shut down. That was the only growing division for Disney because they had no parks, they had no movies, and Disney Plus just grew like like fire. And I think they had the biggest number of people subscribed in Q1, 6 million people. So I mean, do we need to even talk about the IP they got, Disney Plus? I mean, it's like, dude, these are like the crown jewels, man. If you had this IP, I mean, seriously.
Man, they got the prince got his sword just walking up the hill, slashing fools along the way. Uh, when they Star Wars, Marvel, all the Disney princesses, um, and National Geographic is no slouch either. There's a good bit of stuff to watch there. And if Pixar ever gets their act together, maybe they'll start releasing some heat again. But yeah, this IP, you've got some of the biggest dogs in the yard, man. I don't even know what to say about that. It's just they're coming.
Dude, they're coming hard. I mean, we already kind of hinted at in some of our previous podcasts that they literally own a weekday now, Friday. I mean, it's like that's Disney, movie TV show day, right? It's like WandaVision. There was all Twitter always trends, pretty high on whatever
Yep.
Marvel shows out that week, and then we just had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We'll have Loki coming in June. So yeah, man. I mean, there's nothing to say about Disney Plus. And it's kind of interesting. They're kind of like a good mix between Netflix and Prime because Disney is also trying to capitalize on merch, right? I mean, think about it. When these theme parks open up, merchandising, everything,
Hmm.
they could tie that in so hard, man. It's not even funny, man. Just think about this. I have a Disney pass and I take the kids. What if they kind of bundle it together and say, "Oh yeah, with your Disney Plus subscription, you can go to, Disney World, and go see, this experience, right, for extra $20." Dude, they can create so many bundles and so many packaging around experiences with Disney Plus. It'll blow your mind. You think Amazon's got something, man. Disney can just really blow it out with some of that merchandising stuff.
Yeah, and without fail, man. They don't have like a lot of the technological inroads like Netflix and Prime do. But every week, you're right. Every week you'll find whatever Disney property trending. Boom, just like clockwork.
Yeah. So, I mean, so they're the up and coming big dog, young prince coming for the king. So, definitely they're the ones that everyone's keeping an eye on. So that's pretty interesting. And then finally, we got HBO Max, man, or Warner Media for and under Warner Media is HBO Max, HBO. They currently have 64 million global. So they're a little bit less than everyone else, 44 million in the United States alone. And they only added close to about 3 million, 2.7 million Q1. So, where they placed, man, and then you look at their IP. What are your thoughts there?
They're like they're like the wizard, man. The gangly wizard in a warrior movie where you're like, that's the wizard. They kind of should be doing more than they are, but they're just kind of over in the corner being silly, making potions and whatever. Um, so yeah, HBO Max. Yeah, they've got a lot of obvious connections into Hollywood. They tout themselves as the home box office. They should be banging out like a lot of really well liked movies, a lot of talked about quality content, and they're just not really banging on that level right now, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's the fact right now. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking about, but yeah, they're just kind of playing around with second rate versions of what everybody else is doing. Like they've got DC, it's obviously not winning as much as Marvel. Um, their weird monsterverse and anime content is far far less appealing than what Netflix has. Um, Game of Thrones, you mentioned is supposed to be coming along, but I don't know. It left a sour taste in everybody's mouth last time it showed up, but it's a strong property, so we'll see.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's a good analogy. They're like that little weird wizard. You don't know he could be a powerful wizard or it could be just a clown. You just don't know, right? Because he's out there, doing his. He's out in the woods somewhere, right? And so doing his own thing, and you're like, leave that crazy old fool alone. And then, then eventually he might become powerful. Crap, we got to do something about him. I agree. I mean, heads, shout out to Grace. We listened to her. What was it? What's it called? What's her site called? I
Beyond the
always
trailer.
forget. Yeah, beyond the trailer, she kind of hinted at HBO Max really should do a lot better than we thought, right? When they just had all the trending when it came to, not just Godzilla versus King Kong, but the Snyder Cut, right, of the Justice League. So they had two massive things that came out back to back. Now, granted, that's probably more of a Q2 kind of discussion, so maybe that didn't kind of populate into this month, into the numbers yet. But they should be lot further along, especially with their big deal of all these different movies that we're going to go to movie theaters this year. They just moved them over to HBO Max to kind of grow that. So like I said, I mean, I'm still bullish on HBO Max. I mean, I'm looking at these services myself personally.
Uh-huh.
I would say my rating is Disney Plus is number one, HBO Max, Prime, and then Netflix. Because
Huh.
that's
Okay.
and it's yeah, because I always go. It's like funny of all the things I go always check HBO Max, even though because this weird service, man. They don't just have like movies and like some DC stuff that I like to watch, but they always have some esoteric like TV shows from Comedy Central. Like I saw this one show called South what's it called? What was it called? Jeez, man, South Side. It was
Hmm.
about Chicago South Side.
Yeah, yeah.
Hilarious, man. You gotta check that out. And so it's like they have, it's just like weird stuff on it and all the HBO stuff. So it's kind of like that's the place I go to, like when I'm about to fall asleep, at 10 p.m. So it's kind of like I like it, man. So we'll see where it goes, but you're right. It's still we just don't know what it can become, and so that's the challenge.
All right, so ranking them, I guess my tops would be let's see, um, Netflix. Nope, I'm changing my answer. I don't know why I wrote that down. Disney Plus, Prime, Netflix, HBO.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Prime came in second, and I'm literally thinking about what I actually go watch. And there's always something on Prime that I can find. And there's a lot of sifting through random garbage, but
Definitely. We talked about this too, man. Literally anybody who had an idea for a movie, that's where it goes.
yeah. But here's what I found. Like you were saying, the weird esoteric stuff on HBO, and I do love that as well. I found like old kung fu movies, and I don't know if you remember from my Wu Tang days. I'd like bring in kung fu movies and just watch them every once in a while. So
Yep.
I was searching I was searching on Prime, and they have a Shaw Brothers collection, and I was like, holy crap! That's like all the Wu Tang movies: Five Deadly Venoms, Master Killer, 36 Chambers, you know, Flying Guillotine, all this. I was like, this is, I just went nuts on it. So I find myself watching that one more than Netflix, which is interesting. Uh, I think the quality of Netflix is really hit or miss and weird, but yeah,
Mhm.
I
Mm.
mean, it's totally valid. But we both got Disney Plus at the top.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of similar and different position, different, ideas. I mean, Disney Plus obviously is great for the kids and stuff, and we can watch all the Marvel and Star Wars stuff, and but I like that stuff too. But I will say this: I would say, from a technology standpoint, Prime is great. I love their integration with IMDb, and so you can always find out, okay, where's this guy from again? And boom, you can just you can look it up real quick or who this actor was, and you can cross reference it, and that's brilliant to
Oh,
me.
the X-ray
And then
feature.
Netflix, yeah, the X-ray feature is huge, man. And it's like, oh man, yeah, I like this actor. Where's he at now? And what's he did he do here? So to me, that's great. And then Netflix, their interface is still tops. I mean,
Mhm.
you can stop it easily. You can fast forward now videos. So I mean, as far as technology standpoint, their investments there, and then that recommendation feature, right, potentially could be good. But like the Ankler said in their article, was like, yeah, you can have all the machine learning algorithms you want, but you ain't got no hits or the quality is good. You can recommend some crap, and people still not gonna hit play.
Yeah,
So that's kind of interesting, man. But no, man, I like this, man. We need to keep this up going, man. We kind of do a check in, like maybe every quarter,
yeah,
and seeing where this goes. I will put this up here too, real quick before we move on. Paramount Plus is come upcoming because you gotta think they got some two major IP hitters, Star Trek and Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? And if nothing else, man, I mean, I, for the core series of the last, it was okay, but man, the first one, brilliant, man. I mean that the first Last Airbender was great, the cartoon series on
uh,
Nickelodeon, and if they got that IP, if they finally do some good stuff with that, that could be huge, man. So I think Paramount Plus, and then Star Trek, of course, that's just been around since our parents' days, in the '60s. So I think they have a strong opportunity to kind of own from an IP standpoint. As far as like their growth and all that, it's still up in the air, but definitely Paramount Plus is one to watch.
yeah. I've seen the Star Trek heads come out in force whenever anything happens. So I'm like, where are you guys watching this? Okay, you've all got Paramount Plus. All right.
Yeah, I was out there. I was telling you about it. So, I'm kind of Paramount Plus guy. So that's kind of like my go-to. But if there's anything good, still early days for them, right? But any other streaming services you watch that we didn't really cover?
I'm on Funimation. That's a anime streaming service. It's not as hardcore as Crunchyroll, but they have more English dubs of stuff and a lot more properties that are easy to watch. You just kind of jump in, turn it on. You're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I get my anime fix with Funimation. What else do I have? Nah, those are the only ones I kind of rock with. Yeah, I dropped Hulu, and ESPN doesn't really count for me.
Well, I've kind of lumped them in with Disney Plus because they kind of like a package deal somewhat.
Sure.
But I do have Hulu because of the live TV. You can watch like TV shows, current TV shows, and so I kind of like catching up with some stuff
Yeah.
there. So yeah, man. I think yeah. Anything else on this topic? I think this is a great topic. We need to definitely
Yeah.
cover it again.
Definitely. You know what's interesting? That there are these classes of apps that, and Triller is the one that's on my mind. It's a new app. It's kind of what Vivo was trying to do online, but basically you get these music events, you get these like concerts or the Versus series. They're the guys who bought the Versus brand, by the way. So these Triller guys, um, you can go on your phone, you look at watch this. Instead of getting the little whack Instagram live interface, you go widescreen with this Triller app. You're watching the versus battle. You can do the AirPlay and flip it up to your TV, so you're just watching through your TV. Um, it's telling you about all the next, like, hey, this guy is having a concert. It's going to be live. You can ask your questions through it. So it's a very interesting and focused property that seems to be targeting like musicians and the whole concert angle. So it's not a streaming service, but it's an app that I found myself checking in on once in a while to see what people are talking about with new music and things like that.
Oh no, that's good. And my little esoteric thought too was I don't know if you heard Roku bought Quibi content. So you remember Quibi came out with those little 15-minute bite-sized
Yeah,
content, trying to win over that mobile on the go.
yeah,
Then we got hit by a pandemic and everybody's like, I ain't going nowhere. So I ain't buying this.
yeah.
So Roku bought all that content. And we talked about a little bit. Roku's got tons of like, TV shows and stuff that you never even heard of, right? And they're trying to make a play for it. So it's gonna be interesting, man. So there's tons of stuff out there, man. So maybe we'll maybe come up with a TV show one day. Put on one of these little streaming
That's
shows, man,
right. That's
because
right.
you really could be. I mean, it's bananas. So anyway, so let's get into the Falcon discussion, man. Falcon into Winter Soldier. So man, real quick, man, do you just want to cut to the chase? What'd you think about the episode, and then what'd you think holistically about the series?
Okay. Um, I I want to be careful with my words here.
Uh-oh, that don't sound good.
so so it's fine. I'm happy they did what they did. But it's one of those I'm happy for you type of moments. You know, it's like when someone stands up and starts cheering, they're like, "Oh, it was excellent," and they're clapping their hands. I'm like, "Very good. That's good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're happy." But I was I was watching this like this guy fought so hard to be Mr. Second Place. And then they come out with the announcement, there's gonna be a Captain America 4, and it's like, all right, all right, so, let's see what happens. But I wasn't that excited about it. I wasn't excited about the decisions they made. Um, so this isn't. I don't. I don't know. What did you think? Because I'll respond to you.
Yeah, we got a little difference opinion. I admire what they did. I liked it. I mean, I liked the last episode, and overall, I liked their ambition of what they, went for, right? And even though it was, there were so many different subplots and stuff going on, but I think the through line was, the confliction of having a black man as Captain America. Let's just cut to the chase, right?
Hmm.
And what does that mean? And I like that, right? It was, there was a black showrunner. I mean, they had a lot of black staff on the right, a lot of black writers on the staff, and so that they tried to, kind of mirror that in there, and I think that was pretty relevant. And so I thought that was kind of good. And some stuff was a little hokey. I mean, you get to spoilers here, but Isaiah ain't he's still playing that old man bullshit. He was like, man, I ain't feeling none of this. And then he took him to go see that statue of him. Then he fell down and gave him a hug. I was like, okay, that's a little too much. Yeah, this dude was bitter for like 40 years, and you go take him to the Smithsonian. He got one little stink little statue out there. Now he breaking down in tears. Thank you. I like, come on, dude. He'd been like, okay, I appreciate it.
they spelled
We
my,
still got a long way to
they
go.
spelled my name right.
I know, man. It's just like now he broke down tears. Now he believes in America. I don't. I mean, I know that's not what they were going for, but that was the takeaway from that scene to me. It was like because he got a statue. Now he believes in America. I don't know. That was a little hokey,
Yeah, yeah, that and
but
that was one of the major things I had a problem with. I was like, if he represents this idea of being, um, hey, we can't forget our history. This is actually something that happened. There's a righteous anger that needs to exist, and suddenly, it's like, hey, man, you don't have to have a righteous anger because we made a statue. You know, I'm like, bruh, that's the prime example of what do they call that? Not throwing them a bone. It's like
Mhm.
the black guys are mad. Let's give them a statue or something. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cut the check.
Yeah, yeah, cut the check, cut, just whatever, you don't gotta give me, my kudos, whatever. But so that was the only thing that kind of read, real little false. But I'll be honest with you, man, the speech was affecting. I mean, when Anthony Mackie, well, first of all, so me, obviously, we knew when he opened up the suitcase, he was gonna have the Captain America, costume, right? And the stars and stripes. And so, he's flying around with the shield, like we predicted. And look good. I mean, it looked good on him and everything. I thought that was pretty good. Um, did you have any thoughts on like, his fighting style and how he used it and all that kind of stuff? Just let's get into the tactics and then we'll get into his speech in a second.
They did what they did what they probably should have done with if they're going to give him the shield and have him take up that mantle. It's like, yeah, I'll do some shield plus wing antics. I really thought it was cool how you know um, evil villain Carly was punching him and he threw up the shield, but so he wouldn't get knocked back, he dug his wings into the ground. That was pretty cool, and it's like, oh, okay, now I'm getting some of this actual character here. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I
His fighting style, what makes him different? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's doing them gymnastics that he practiced in the last episode.
What was that? Like, why are you practicing that, man? That was, he was just like, I got practice gymnastics moves so I can be ready. But
You can't punch
no, I like it too. Cause
you can't punch me.
go
I'm
ahead.
doing a somersault.
Well, to your point, what makes him different, right? And so he doesn't have super strength, so he's got to use the technology to kind of enhance himself. And
Mhm.
so, he was using the backpack to get a little speed, little, extra oomph, right? When he hit
Yeah.
people, like you said, to protect himself. The shield is indestructible, right? Made of vibranium. But he needs more leverage, right? Or he'll be
Yeah.
knocked on his ass every time. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the way he flew, someone made a good point that, he's more collaborative maybe than Captain America is. So he did recon and thought through, okay, who can help me fly this plane? So, this plane was in danger. So he found that out and said, okay, we're gonna work together, right, to kind of get this, save these people. And so I thought that was kind of cool. So, basically, he's just an everyday Joe that's just gonna do the right thing, right? And I think I guess that's his MO, right? He's gonna be the people's Captain America, right? He doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, but he's gonna be the people's cap. I guess that the premise they're trying to project here.
I guess so. Eh, pushing the whole it's okay to have a black cap, and that's not my beef that we have a black Captain America. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, fine, black Captain America, but it seems like, and here's what bugged me about the speech and a lot of the tone of this episode was that was the highlight of this guy's life, where it's like, I too can be second place. I can be,
I do. Can be somebody.
you know, I can be, the frankly a knockoff. And I've told this before. I really don't like the idea of replacement characters. You know, and people keep coming back, guys. It's a title. It's not uh, it's not his name. It's a title. And it's like, no, no, no. You ask anybody, it's just going to be their name. You know. So when you think of Captain America, we're still going to have, you know, there's going to be Captain America, and then there's going to be the other guy, the Black Captain America.
Yeah. Or Black Falcon.
I, if they, I honestly was kind of hoping in my heart that they would have called him Captain Falcon, or the American Falcon.
Mm. Mhm. Make it just a whole new character and not base it in this whole, Captain America name. But I agree. I mean, I do agree with you on that part because you're right. It has to be standoff from itself as opposed to being second place because now you still Captain America is synonymous with Steve Rogers, and so but to be fair, there's a couple things that make the speech work for me. Right, was the fact that Anthony Mackie as an actor, he's just very charismatic, so he made that speech work, and he made the character work, even
Mhm.
though we both agree he's the second place character, right? But I think he, as an actor, he infused it with some stuff. And then also they kind of undercut it with some humor, right? I think the whole part where Bucky was talking about, oh yeah, I was on my phone catching a text and you were saying something about being a black man and stars and stripes. So I thought that was kind of funny to me. It's just like, let's just undercut this whole thing. It's like, look, yeah, it's kind of hokey, but we get where you're trying to go with it. And I thought that was kind of funny. But other than that, I mean, I get where they're going with it. I mean, he's conflicted, and that's America, right? I think I always think about back to what Chris Rock said, the comedian. He always said that, and it's so true. He said America is like your uncle who played your way through college, but he molested you. And so it's kind of like, that's so true about America. I mean, you go through pain, but there's so much opportunity. And so I think that's what he represents, right? The chance for America, even though we're conflicted and I like the fact that he said, I mean, especially in this week, I mean, we don't really cover it too much, but it was we had a interesting, verdict that came out with the Derek Chauvin case and a lot of stuff, police brutality and stuff like that. And people get frustrated and say, "Oh, we gotta leave America as black people or something like that." And I like what he said. He said, "You know what? We built this country, right? We have a say here. And so, yes, this represents a blonde-haired, blue-eyed person, but I'm American too, right? And I can represent America too." And I thought that was powerful to me. I was
Sure.
like, he's right. We can't give up. I mean, we can make this country better if we stay and fight. And that was inspirational to me.
Yeah, and I'm there were just as I said, I'm happy for you. the
I'm proud to be an American.
Yeah, but
That
but that so I get what the speech was going for, but I was over there just like, why are you appealing to all of these people on national television like this? That's going that was his hero moment, which was interesting to me. Um, so it definitely worked in that respect, where it's like, hey, look, I'm going to bring people together. I know they don't like putting black men on the news like that, where they're about to say something crazy, and he came out and said something eloquent, because he's so well spoken. Um, but
so articulate. So articulate.
God damn, that boy can speak. Uh,
Give him a trophy. Give him a trophy.
so I thought that was interesting. That was his hero moment, and as you said, during a lot of the fights, it was more collaborative. So it changed a couple things to me, and I was like, am I okay with that? And my gut was like, I'm fine with it, but it still doesn't prove to me that this guy has a strong enough identity on his own. I think that's what it comes down to. Just what is
Mhm.
the identity of this character? Um, I think there were one or two. what I call angel shots of him with the wings and the red, white, and blue
Yeah.
that were looking really, really nice and awesome, man. It's like that's something, even just in terms of a visual, that's something that the regular Steve Rogers Captain America couldn't do, that you can do with Captain Black American Falcon. So
Captain America Falcon.
well,
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
still not sure what to call him. So, but yeah,
Captain Black America Falcon. I love it. Oh man. No, I liked it, man. I mean, so real quick, let's go through the other top stories.
what,
So Sharon
okay,
Sharon Carter, the power broker, I think we called it, in our preview video. I mean, I think that was like the worst kept secret in all of the TV show.
yeah.
But any thoughts on that briefly?
I'm still on my haterade here. So, you're gonna. They gave my man's a statue, Isaiah Bradley. They gave him a statue, um, and all the other talk, and suddenly, you know, Sharon Carter comes up, and they got a whole committee that's like, "Hey, we're gonna right these wrongs. We're gonna give you what you need. We're gonna bring you back. We're gonna pardon you," and set a whole process. And I was like, "Oh, they did a whole little sit down just to tell what they were going to do, and they're all ready to clap their hands and bring her back into the fold." And it took this amazing hero speech on the news and talking directly to a senator, to kind of get them to say, he may be right. So once again, I felt a little imbalance there, and I was like, come on, man. Well, what's going on here? And she's about to double cross y'all. Unbelievable. So
Mhm. I know. Well, and then also, it speaks to his judgment. So if he's trying like, I'm going to fight for you and get you back. You remember he said at the end, I forgot. I'm going to fight for you, Sharon Carter, and get you back in the fold. And now that makes him look like a dumbass, right? She's still the power broker over here, undercutting everything he does. But you know what? To be fair, I just thought about it. They're probably going to undercut this whole thing because guess what? She's a scroll. Secret war, secret invasion. Watch.
mm,
So that's how I think they're gonna, yeah,
uh,
they're gonna undercut it. Like, oh well, she was really in hiding, and this was a scroll the whole time. This part of our master plan.
that
So
could
I
be.
don't know. That's a one way. That's one way they could kind of just get her back to being, because be honest with you, Peggy Carter, right? Didn't she start Shield, and so that she basically just denigrated the whole Carter name. So it's kind of like that. Marvel don't like that,
You
man.
know
Come on,
what? That is
Marvel
a
ain't going out
good
like that.
that is a good angle for retconning anything. If there's something they don't like, it's like, "Psych was a scroll." It's like, "Oh, okay."
The whole time he was scroll. So
Oh, that wasn't
and then
that wasn't bad acting. It was a scroll. It's just it's the stuff that they can retcon anything. That's brilliant.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. I like that. They were bad acting. It was a scroll. Yeah, we gotta write that one down. And then the other one, US agent, right? So he finally got his official name, John Walker. So Madam Hydra gave him a new suit and a new name, and he's back, baby. He's excited. He's hyped up. But what's he hyped up to do? I don't know. So it's kind of like he's all amped up, but with the juice in him. But where is he going, man? What's the plan for him?
Man, they went soft on him too, man. Um, he gonna murder somebody in cold blood in front of all these people
Not just murder. Wait a minute. Not just murder. Decapitated dude.
with the shield. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. If he was trending on Twitter, I'm sure he would have gotten canceled, but apparently not. Uh, they just put some black dye on his outfit and sent him on his way.
Well, and Madam Hydra, what's her plan? I mean, I'm hearing Thunderbolts. I'm hearing,
I like her.
Evil Avengers.
Yeah, I like the Julia Louis Dreyfus character, Madam Hydra, Val as they call her. She's just she's got this quirkiness that I wasn't so sure about in the first scene, but now in this last episode, I was like, okay, I kind of like what you're doing. And the confused wife just made it work even better. She's like, what is she talking about?
Well, I mean, once again, you got good actors, who can, infuse characters, or so Julie Louis Dreyfus has been doing this for a long time, so she can definitely make something sing. So good for her. She's gonna get a paycheck for the next 8 movies. She show up in end credit scenes. So good for her, man. More power to her, man. Anything else, real quick on well, now no longer Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but Captain America and the Winter Soldier. What'd you think of that?
Uh,
Again,
yeah.
I'm
Uh,
happy for
I'm happy for him. I'm glad. I'm
happy for
glad for
you.
you. Good for you. Good for you. Good for them. Good for you.
I mean, man, I mean, now I'm thinking about
What
it.
was Shuri and the Wakandans thinking? Were they over in Wakanda? About to bust out some of the red, black, and green, and then they were like, "Wait a second, bring me the red, white, and blue. We're gonna make this thing pop."
You know what? True story, my mother-in-law texted me that. She's like, he said he should have came out with the red, green, and black, man. It was like, why would they do red, white, and blue? It came from Wakanda. So she was like, why didn't they do that instead? And so I said, yeah, good point. Because I guess Bucky is like, okay, we don't know. Bucky's a skilled artist in his skill,
Mm.
between murdering folks. And so he probably drew the design and
Yeah,
said,
they
look,
they
just
probably called White Wolf like, "Excuse me, Mr. White Wolf. You know Sam Wilson best. What colors would he like?" It's like, he's an American trying to be second place. I know exactly what he'd like.
he does exactly what Captain America does, but slower. So this is what you need to draw. This is what you need to design.
I think he'll love this. They're gonna invite me to the cookout after I,
Yeah, that's the other thing.
literally.
He's the white guy at the cookout. Literally the white guy at the cookout, man. He was having a good time, man. The kids are hanging on the damn arm. He was, flirting with the kids. Having. I was. Hey, I thought he was gonna do the electric slide, man. In a second.
Uh, It's electric.
Might as well. Shoot, man. He's there, man. He's back. So yeah, man. So anyway, ultimately, I liked it. I thought it was inspirational, and obviously, I think you felt a little bit different than I do. But look, I said, I'm encouraged, man. I mean, I think I just don't know where it goes from here.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what Captain America 4 looks like, but yeah, it's promising, man. So
Peep this.
with
My immediate reactions are usually a little harsher than my month from now reactions. And right now, I like WandaVision better than this.
whoa, fire, take
Yeah. That's
fire. Well, the numbers for this one was way higher than not way higher, but it was like it reached number one
yeah.
when whatever Nielsen tracks anymore. So,
Yeah.
people are watching this and obviously it's a little bit more, action oriented. I think we all knew that. It
Mhm.
wasn't as, out there like WandaVision. So so yeah, it did well. And so like I said, and both the actors, I like them both. I mean, and their characters, I be honest with you, of all the characters, that's the thing. This retcon thing too. You're right. I mean, Zemo is a killer. They try to rehab his character, right, arc, and then obviously, Winter Soldier. They've been doing that for the last couple years, and then so there's a lot of retconning they're trying to do in this show, and so we'll see how it all turns out. But to be honest with you, I kind of like the Winter Soldier. I wish there was a comic book series where him and the Black Widow got together, and that was pretty
Mm.
cool. They're like this old Russian crew, and they out here, trying to do right the wrongs, and so I wouldn't mind seeing him team up with, I guess, the new Black Widow, right? When they get announced after the movie, so that might be kind of cool for him. But because I think it's a cool character. I mean, and or maybe he's going back to Wakanda, man. And
Yeah.
who knows?
I
I don't know.
See, yeah, that's I, and maybe this is another part of it because it wasn't just all about Captain Secondary. It's got a lot to do with what I was feeling with Bucky Barnes. So he's the super soldier, and he's got this weird relationship, or at least should have this weird relationship with all the Flag Smashers. And they got into that big fight in the end, and they were like Flag Smashers versus Bucky. I was like, oh man, he's in there now. He's got to come to grips with, they're like him, and I thought there was going to be something, between him and Pippi Longstocking. Um, but it just, I don't know, it played out really weird to me. And then, to have Zemo's butler blow up the truck full of them, um, just to kind of put a nail in that coffin. I I was kind of confused on how I should think about, Bucky going forward. I mean, he
Mhm.
finally realized that he should, give proper, you know, uh, I don't recompense or whatever. Talking to the old man
Mhm.
like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, it was me. I need to come to grips with this." That was cool. But I just still wonder about him as a character. Still having the super soldier thing. So that was just a curiosity for me. I'm like, well, what's going on with this? I don't know.
Yeah, where's his character arc, right? Where's he go? So, yeah, they got a lot of open windows here. I mean, at least with WandaVision, it was really only two characters really that you wanted, like Vision and Wanda, where they were going to go off and do. But this one, they got like about five, six different characters and how they relate to the larger Marvel universe. And so it's going to be interesting, man. I still think, Marvel still has a villain problem. If they're going to make US Agent kind of like this pseudo, good guy, then I mean, I thought he was gonna be a straight core. He should have been a straight core bad guy, man. We gotta have some bad guys, man. They're trying to make these bad guys all good guys and anti-heroes. Zemo and now US Agent. It was like, dude, we need some hardcore bad guys, man, because it's gonna be boring, man. What are they gonna fight? Some generic flag smasher dudes that we don't even know about? I mean, even Carly, I mean, she wasn't even a character, man. It was just like one minute she was like, "Yeah, I believe you, Sam." The next minute she's like, "I'm killing them all." I mean, it's like, which one are you? It's like, the villain problem is really probably bothersome, right?
Yeah.
Because we just don't have. What's the point of it having a hero if you don't have a compelling villain, right, to go against them? So that's the challenge, I think, going forward. So more to come, man. Anything else, man? Well, that's it, man.
Sean,
Anything else you got planned for the week?
real quick, what do you think of the Shang Chi trailer?
Good, man. I liked it. I'm excited. Just like everything, kind of like Mortal Kombat, man. They're trying to find an excuse to put a martial arts movie in IP. so,
I'm all for it.
you know, yeah. So, I'm good for it. I know we have you know, a, a mutual friend, Andy, who can probably talk more about like what does this all mean, in context of Asian culture and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I'm excited. Trailer look hot. Yeah, will it tie into? Well, it probably won't tie into the internals, but I don't know. Again, what's Marvel's larger vision, purpose? That's always in the back of my mind because they put that in our mind, right?
Yeah.
When they make these movies interconnected. So now they got all these different threads, and there's no linear thread now, and so it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know how this all gonna connect together. But I think Feige's got a master plan, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But what'd you think?
Oh man, my my 7-year-old, kung fu theater. Oh god, did I actually just mess that up like that? The kung fu theater that the kung fu theater that used to come on television late at night. That all those memories are coming back for me, and it's just joyous, man. When I saw, Shang Chi and the Aquafina character, I'm digging it. So I'm all for it. It can even be bad,
Yeah, man.
but the fighting's better than Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat. I'll be happy.
Well, I hope it ain't bad as Iron Fist, man. That was brutal on Netflix. I didn't even get through the first season, man. I heard the second season got better, but first season was brutal. So yeah, so we'll see. But good stuff, man. Well, hey, man. Anything else going on for the week for you?
Nothing much. That I got to make sure everybody out there watches the finale to Invincible. So we're not gonna have a Disney show next week to talk about. So we'll be on that. And yeah, we got a week off before what? Um, is it a week or 2 weeks off before we get to the Bad Batch?
Ooh, man, I don't know. You might be right. Maybe about 2 weeks. So I'll
Okay.
check that out. So yeah, definitely. I'll be the next one we talk to, and then I think the next big Marvel is Loki. Is not That's not coming out to June 11th, I think. But
Right.
oh yeah, on my side, I missed spoke last week, but this week definitely we're filming this. We're recording this the night of the Oscars, and so that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So I'm kind of excited about that and see if Chadwick Boseman gets his Oscar. What's it called? Posthumously, I think that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, so good luck to him on his performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it yet, but he did a great job on that. So yeah, good luck to him as well. But other than that, man, yeah, we'll definitely talk about Invincible next week, and we'll talk about some other cool things that are coming out. So with that being said, hey everyone, thank you for your time today. Please like and subscribe and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter or Instagram. Please connect and contact us on any of these topics. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, I'm Theo and Mr. Benja. Have a great one.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show versus Business, to get exclusive behind the scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!